Morning, fellas. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday. I suck at these lead-in things, but I figure it's going to be a fun episode anyway, because I got a good topic for you. Welcome to the show. All right, I hear you. There's always one guy in the comments complaining, you sip your coffee and it's so loud in the mic. Stop doing that. Fine. In the meantime, stop doing this.
Sounds very paranoid to me. Like, Still Read is quite paranoid to me, but it does screams a little bit of somebody who is very paranoid on anyone. I think I do think there's an element of suspicion. Like, if you are feeling a certain level of vulnerability, that I think this guy definitely is.
Technically on that one, she was ragging on Rich, not me, but whatever. We're going with there. Hey, Red Morning, welcome. It's Saturday. I'm a little tired this morning. It's birthday weekend, so we're having fun. Not mine, but somebody else's, the old ladies. So it's good times. But we are going to have time for you. Not going to make Red Morning or Rule 0, unfortunately. So I am going to talk about Praxeology, the dominant male. And I think this is one of those ones people don't really understand what the heck people talk about when they talked about the red pill space. I'm equating it to Star Wars. There was a really good original trilogy with a horrible set of sequels from talentless hacks and insufferable fans. And I honestly do think it's a really good analogy. So let's get into it. First part of it is going to be what the heck does that mean by praxeology of the dominant male, how that leads to praxeology like as a practice, and why everybody gets so much of this wrong and what they're going to do about it. So it's going to be more free form. I normally do these like more structured, but we're going to have some fun. I see you guys in the chat. Thank you very much. Southern Hemisphere, good to catch me live. It's good to see you guys. And some sweet books. Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. Never heard of that one, but I mean, I've got like 500 lists of books that I have to get to. So a lot of people don't understand praxeology when they talk about red pill this and red pill that. It's mostly just a marketing buzz term. They don't know what it means. It just sounds cool. To call somebody alpha means they're like good, or if like you're a Christian, you would say they're godly, or, you know, good and evil, right and wrong, red and blue. And it's just like, I guess when you give a child like a computer, they're going to use it to draw poop. Praxeology's never been about good or bad. It's always about utility and lack of utility. If you remember an older cast of mine I did with somebody, she mentioned we mentioned the trolley dilemma, which is like a utilitarian versus, I always get that word wrong, dentist. Hold on a sec. Let me look at this up. If I'm going to do this, let's do it right. Dentological. In other words, do you act in a process that is beneficial and then whatever happens, happens? Or do you act in a way to consciously try to cause the least amount of harm? And for the girl, she couldn't separate a moral thing from, like, a moral statement from its factual objectives, which is a very feminine thing to do, which also reminds me of probably one of my favorite, I reference him so damn much, between Whisper, Jack Ten of Hearts, and Archwinger. I swear to God, this channel is just like the three amigos of red pill. Anyways, he was talking about how a lot of people used to argue about the red pill stuff. They used to call it purple pill debate. They call it the Thunderdome. It was never going to work out because it's distracting, it's entertaining, it's fun, but ultimately nobody's going to see eye to eye, and I get that. So part of this was, well, the red pill itself is just a praxeology. There's no ideology to it. There's no philosophy. There's no like guiding principles, 10 commandments, any of that stuff, any of that nonsense, none of it. But people have their own values and their own morals and their own ideas, and they kind of come with those things in themselves, which is fine. So women generally think of truth as subjective, you know, my truth. The word truth to a very general woman would be the equivalent of like a codified set of her own experiences. That's why it's my truth, and that's why it's your truth, and they can say that and they can believe it. Morality, though, is very objective. There's one morality, there's this, and you're either like 1% to 100% on this moral spectrum. But the reason that that happens is because women have like a natural propensity to defer to an authority. You know, my dad, my husband. I refer to it as the hypergamous best option. But it's essentially that. But the reason you want that authority is because the authority sets the moral agenda. So if you've ever wondered why, like, you can see some brand new thing just started off, a fad, a phase, I don't know, something to do with bathrooms and college sports, for example, not mentioning any names. I want to keep the YouTube channel. And then all of a sudden, women are on board with it. It's the greatest thing ever. And you're like, that's weird. You didn't like it like last minute. Well, it's because generally speaking, once you get a new authority, and this is why marketing works so well on women, it's because marketers understand that the idea is to present themselves as a luxury brand and an authority. And then once they do, they set their moral agenda, basically buy my widgets. And so for the subset of women that, I don't want to say fall for the marketing, but are susceptible to the marketing, they tend to go with it. That's why Peloton, never heard of Peloton, all of a sudden one day they're like, oh, it's the greatest bike ever. And then tomorrow it's like, oh, Coach purses. And then the week after that, it's, oh, Louis Vuitton is the greatest thing ever. Oh my God, Jeffree Star's got a new makeup program. This is amazing. But you see what I mean? It's always some new thing. So yeah, a moral objectivity. And so when you were to argue with a woman, you tend to get like the facts don't matter, and people's character is not only on the table. It's the whole point of the argument. Who here is the better person? Who is the worst person? Who's the authority? It's all status and jockeying games. So that way, once we establish who the better person is, they get to set the agenda. On the other hand, from a praxeological or red pill standpoint, truth is objective. Like there's one set of facts, and statements you have can be closer or further from it. Even when I talk about like my moon is made out of cheese reference, where I don't really care if a statement is true, just that it's useful. The reason I say that's not because I don't care about truth, or like the red pill doesn't care about truth. It's that being closer to truth is better than not being closer to truth. So if there's a statement that's not quite there yet, but it's close enough, that's considered like, yeah, it's good enough until you come up with something better, as opposed to what a lot of people do, where it's like, well, this isn't 100% ironclad fact of the universe, therefore nothing matters and we're all even. It's like, no. There's wronger than wrong. You know, some things that are wrong, some things that are right, some things that are so wrong that they can't even be considered wrong. Yeah. Well, see, yeah, Nick, he gets where I'm going with this. Men are a luxury brand. So where was I on this? Oh, right. Morality for guys tends to be subjective. Like, we understand that because we're very tribal by nature. You know, we go on a hunting group. If we do something that's good for for our tribe and bad for another tribe, we understand that, and the other tribe understands that. Most movies, like how many movies do you remember seeing, like guy movies, like, you know, samurai films from the 50s, spaghetti westerns, where it's two people and you can understand that from their own perspectives they're absolutely right? Or a good example, actually, the new John Wick film, where Donnie Yen, he's basically hired to kill John Wick in order to save his daughter. Otherwise, they're going to kill his daughter. So you're like, dude, I can see that. He would be the protagonist if the movie wasn't called John Wick. It was called Kane. But John Wick, on the other hand, I'm avenging my wife and this stuff. So everybody there understands like the subjective morality. In other words, this is good for me and bad for you. This is good for me. It's bad for you. So when you talk to a guy or a red-pilled, you know, praxeological man on this stuff, what do? They try to discover like what statements are more factual. You know, facts don't care about your feelings. That nonsense. And the morality's out of it. Like, I don't care if he's an asshole. Is he right? So when you get these two things arguing with each other, you get one side thinks that facts don't matter, and then the other side just doesn't care how much of a jerk you are. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not about that. I don't like using fictional examples too much because then people start going down the rabbit holes like John Wick is the aspiration. Like, no, just a quick illustration to illustrate a point. Relax. We're not going to start talking about who's better, Captain America or Iron Man or nothing stupid like that. So on the end of this, you get two people arguing, not on the same level, nothing is agreed upon. This is why the praxeology matters, and there's a whole bunch of things to it. So before I get into the praxeology, the dominant male, I'll segue into one more quick thing here.
I don't usually post pictures of my kids online, but they're infants and you can barely see them, so, you know, it's fine. But a YouTuber named Ryan Stone tweeted, showing off the F trophies for clout. So the babies are trophies that I'm showing off. It's perhaps not a surprise that a picture of a proud father would be so upsetting to the sort of man who clearly never had one.
I think I forgot the topic. What the heck was it on there? Ultimately distracting. Oh, right. The praxeology thing. So what was the recent thing? I think somebody was talking about it. Yeah, you probably see it on Substack. It turns out that I do these concurrent activities so you can follow it. If you guys haven't followed, by the way, Substack, it's replaced my email list. Here, I'm pulling up my link to this one. You think I'd be ready? Not ready at all. There it is. Give it a follow if you want to. There's the free and the paid one. Both are pretty good in value, so it's, again, if you don't have enough blog reading on your thing, yeah, get onto it. There we go. I should probably pin this one. Finally started reading Manuel Smith. Congratulations, though, sir. It's good. It's good. So when you get into these like moral and factual disagreements, it makes really good blood sport. This is why, like, the girls and the very, like, female allies, I don't know, I'll call it that, because I don't think you can call anybody gay anymore. Apparently it's against Canadian law right now to use a homophobic slur. Human Rights Tribunal thing, so I was like, I don't need to end up in the Canadian Hague, the Hague, eh? So we'll talk about bundles of sticks and British cigarettes. Yeah, so generally speaking, the sneaky fucker types that, you know, want to be feminine allies, and they think like women and they act like women, hoping that gets them, you know, the sex that they want. That's why you're seeing a lot of guys now start to act like this. And I'd say the red-pilled space is awesome because it shows you a perfect example of how men are basically women now. And I don't mean this as like a slur. I mean this as in, like, actually acting like women. What's the most popular thing right now? Oh my God, it's like a telenovela. Oh my God, he just got out of jail, and this girl talked to a racist, and this guy here is threatening a box to match this guy, and then, oh my God. And you see this stuff, and people are invested. There's Marvel fan theories out about, you know, Donovan v. Myron, Civil War. You're like, what in the fuck? But you got to realize this, and here is the subversive part of it that I don't like, but I understand why it's a thing. We've kind of reached a critical mass of men being raised as defective women right now. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't really care about the things. It's here, and we can deal with it. Navel gazing about the reasons doesn't really help. There is so many guys that act like this now that somebody can, in earnest, tell you, well, men and women are totally the same. Look at these guys. All these chick behaviors you're talking about, the negative parts of hypergamy or AWOLT. This guy does it. This guy does it. It's like, yeah, those guys do it. Those guys are defective. I almost shouldn't even use the word defective because I don't like saying that somebody's fundamentally broken, but the behavior is. I should go back to my military training. Don't insult the person, insult the behavior. The behavior is defective. Hey, Dark Knight Dev, $10 super chat. Talk to Rob Says about the White Claw Power Hour. Myron yelling about women attracted to clout and dollars and how they get in line. I think these guys are all paying tribute to Michael's story. Dude, it's been a while. I should almost do a retelling of Michael's story. If you guys haven't heard of this one, it's this great story. It's actually, if you go to the Sidebar series, I think it's the first video on that one from the first piece. It's about Dalrock, which the Christian red-pilled author back in the 2010s. He was talking about how the increase of single women that will never get married is getting worse and that people are underestimating it. And he was showing some statistics to it, which it's, you know, take it or leave it, whatever. And then underneath it, there was this guy, Michael. Now, Michael was talking about how he was in college working hard, basically trying to be the traditional white picket fence conservative type. And all the girls were out there sucking dick and getting drunk and having fun. And then one day, in a moment of pure lucidity, he looks over to the girl. He's like, you do realize you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's like, you whores will never get married and settle down and be happy. You're going to be alone with cats. And the girls just started laughing at him. And the one's like, oh, not only am I going to have my cake and eat it too, it's going to come with sprinkles and chocolate frosting. Now, the only thing that would have made this story better is it's been about 10 years to find out how it resulted, which would be nice, but Michael's never coming back. The point of it is, as you first read it, when you're first in your anger phase, you get like all pissed off, like, son of a bitch, I can't believe these women think they can get away with this. And then you kind of, red pill, it tapped into my anger. I resonate with this. And then you start seeing, the praxeology and the different parts. You build yourself a frame, get some abundance, get some women, get some money, all that good stuff. Then you start to realize, like, you see the story from the opposite side. You see like a bitter, angry, virginal man who thought he was doing the right thing because, women in his life told him to, and those soyish men. But all he realized is that, oh my God, I've just been denied so much happiness out of my life because I listened to these people that say they wanted the best for me, but actually made my life worse. Like, that's how you end up taking it. And that's kind of why I love it as a story. Like, my favorite red pill stuff is that him, Esther Villar, and actually, I think those are the two big ones, where you read it the first time when you're in your anger phase and it resonates with you and it sinks in. You're like, yeah, fuck these bitches. And then you go through and like a year or two later, you go back to it. You're like, Jesus, this person, like Esther Villar, you're a bitter feminist that got mad. You got kicked out of the Fun Boys Club. And so you made your own feminist fanboy club with hookers and blow. And that was like the MRAs. Basically feminism for the pick-me girls. Michael's story, same thing. The traditional conservative guy, all they're doing is dooming a generation of men to failure and misery. And all kinds of problems come from it. No, we're not talking about First Blood. Good movie, though. Good movie. So then why is there a need for a praxeology, right? Well, that's obviously why there's a need for it. There's a lot of conventional wisdom, a lot of common sense, a lot of, good, solid American advice, Canadian advice. This is what we do in the West. And it's just dog shit. It's absolute dog shit because, again, we're thinking like women. There's no truth. Oh, nothing's true. Like, is it true that women are doing this and men are doing... Like, no, that's not true. My truth is you marry your high school sweetheart. And that's the worst part is because who gets paraded around? Guys who, like, their first love, their high school sweetheart. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's rare. It's rare enough that there's a big enough group that you can take them and put them up there. Like, no shade on Peterson, but yeah, when it comes to men and women, he's got zero experience. Well, one experience. Same as, who was the other example? There was a meme going out about it on Twitter, which I thought was funny, where it was, I think it was him and Ben Shapiro and then Rollo, where he was like, I've got a notch count of 1 and I married my high school sweetheart. And Ben was like the same thing. And then Rollo, or no, I begged my wife to marry me. I begged my wife to marry me. And then Rollo's like, she begged to marry me. I kind of resonate more with the Rollo side because my girl kind of had like, when we first got together, kind of had a freak out moment when she's like, I don't know if you love me or not. I was like, of course I do. Like, at this point, I just wanted to stop crying. But, it worked out. I think we did the math. We're like at 14 years now, which is pretty good. But the point of this is it's like nobody cares about men. They just care about their own moral hierarchy. They've established an authority, which in this case is the feminine imperative, not feminism, the feminine imperative. So whatever is good for women in the land of abundance, they will take over because women have figured out how to weaponize the male protective instinct for their own benefit. It's not a cabal of conspiracy theorists, although there is some groups that try to act in coercion. It's mostly an emergent strategy because you get 100 women together and you tell them, this is the ground rules, go do your thing. They're all generally going to act in a similar way to the other 99 women, which looks like a conspiracy, but actually isn't. Now you can map that to whatever other conspiracy group you want, but I'm not going to do that here. No, thank you, sir. Where am I going with this one? Oh, yeah. So we've reached kind of a critical mass right now. And unfortunately, the only way it goes back is when men become more important. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that basically means a collapse. Like some kind of thing where all of a sudden real danger happens. An invading army, which is very hard. Imagine an entire army getting across the Pacific or the Atlantic with enough force to like scare the women straight. Probably not. Or what's the other ones? The electrical grid goes down, like some major catastrophe. And there's some prepper types that are like, oh, I can't wait for the world to go to hell, because while everybody's going to be miserable and starving and desperate, at least the women will finally learn their place. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I don't think betting on the apocalypse is a solid sexual strategy, but you do you. Which, by the way, One More Please taught me that's a code word for go fuck yourself. Shut up. Yeah, return, exactly. Return to when you had to dig a hole in the ground and burn your poop afterwards. Like, nah. So how do you navigate? It's I call it hostile enemy territory, but it's in the macro. Yes, it's hostile alien territory or hostile enemy territory. It turns out male and female sexual strategies are intrinsically like adversarial. Men versus women versus men. That's why women learn to lie, men learn to, like, you know, grape and attack. Like, anytime you look at these macro effects, they're always adversarial. But, and this is one of those neat things about like evolutionary psych, is that while in the macro men and women are adversarial, in the micro they tend to be more collaborative. I mean, Archwinger had a great thing, and She's Not on Your Team, which was basically suggesting, look, I get it, you're acting attractive now, you're red pilled, that stuff is great, but just because when you're on the top of your game and she goes along with you does not mean she's on your team. And everybody who's ever had like a zeroing out experience can say, yeah, she was great until something happened and she wasn't. Sometimes it was like, oh, I got sick, and then right away she was sleeping with my brother. Or, you know, she held in for as long as she could, 5 years. No shame. Like, at this point, if you're with somebody and you're, you know, betting your livelihood on somebody and they start to become, you know, limp and lame and dud, yeah, it's a natural survival instinct to think about, well, maybe there's a different option out there for me. But once you understand that, again, remember the whole point is like to learn to love your woman for who she is, not who you want her to be. And so you understand there's always that burden of performance. Although I'm not sure if burden's the right word, but that's the word, that's the term that was used, which is fine. Again, these comes with pros and cons. When you get a woman that's her hypergamous best option, she tends to be fiercely loyal to you. And guys love that stuff. A fiercely loyal woman, probably one of the best things ever. But you don't get that unless you actually have like healthy boundaries, good expectations, you know, a little bit of edge to you, like a Machiavellian thing. And understanding basically that, you know, it's all voluntary. You could be the greatest man in her life until you're not, and then she's off. And I'm okay with that too. As a guy, you'll bounce back, you'll be fine. But that's our goal. Like, I get, like, so now that you know all the terrain, you know a lot of the advice you're getting before has been bad. A lot of people are unhelpful. The moral framework that people have that caused this to happen, and the reasons that you tend to have a lot more enemies out there than allies when it comes to your own best interest. What do you do with that? Well, that was the whole point of a praxeology. You have a clearly defined problem. You have a clearly defined set of tools. You have a clearly defined outcome that you're looking for. How do you deal with that? And praxeology, the dominant male, kind of came from that. So, a quick thing here.
Boom, what's up, fam? Got some big news to share that unfortunately is not so good, so I'm gonna jump right into it. You're gonna watch this video and you're gonna cry. At least we can laugh at your eyes as you cry, like in the corner, like a little girl in the fetal position.
There she is. There she is. All right, so this is Ian Ironwood. He was in porn working. Can't remember if it was the marketing side of things or he was like the on-set shrink. I think it was the marketing side though. Anyways, he was kind of like a Rolo, married 15, 20 years, exposed to a very hypersexual industry, had some great red pill takes in this. Honestly, I think if you're not dealing with booze or porn or the military or lawyering, it's kind of interesting because those are like the places that you tend to see the more feral nature of people. Like, remove all veneers, all lies, and it's just honest actions. So they tend to have the best attitudes towards this. Anyway, so he was talking about the praxeology of the dominant male. And it started off with a letter from a female reader of his that was using his red-pilled stuff to get herself a good man. She was basically fell for the feminist lie. Think of it like Allie. You know when Allie was talking about that? Like, oh, they had me in the military. I can do what a man can do, and feminism this and feminism that. And then she's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to marry an old hot guy and have a bunch of his kids. And you're like, all right, great. So this girl's like, I'm pleased to inform you, after only 3 weeks, I managed to claim a pretty staunch red pill boy. I didn't mention my medical school or charity work, familial problems. And I mentioned that marriage was something I was looking forward to and living with a man and her children. He's like, man, it's too easy. It's been a whole year now. Our relationship's never been better. Now I have to tell you, he's none the wiser that I'm no red-pilled girl. And I've been able to maintain the illusion that he's in control. He has been so over the moon about meeting a conservative, attractive, intelligent girl who is family-oriented. He's loose in his own red pill ideas without me saying a thing. You know, that women shouldn't work or take care of the kids, etc. She's like, you know, don't worry, I'll treat him right. Same as he treats me, and I'm sure. And as she's like, crave the dominant man. It was just great. And so, yeah, red pill girl in the bedroom, you know, not so much with jobs, chores, and life. Can't have it all, can we? And this is where Ian comes back. He snaps back with like, yeah, I don't think you're getting it. Like, he knows, like, you think you're pulling a fast one on him. I think I have a video on this if you ever seen it. It's called The Smartest Dogs Are the Easiest to Train. And this is why men often get manipulated by this, right? Now, in this case, it's benevolent manipulation. She wanted him. She wanted a family. She wanted a boyfriend, a husband, all that stuff. So she basically incentivized him by acting like the kind of woman he wanted to be. And she's like, I'm playing a trick on him. In reality, I'm one of these boss bitches, right? But the guy's like, I don't give a shit. Like, if you ever wondered my saying, don't care, got laid, this is where it originally came from 2014? Yeah, 2014. Don't care, got laid. Yeah, she thinks she's pulling a fast one on him. She's not really like this. But as a guy, we fundamentally don't care. Are you acting right? Perfect. I don't care what's in your head. You don't need to worry about what a girl is thinking or feeling. She's allowed to feel whatever she wants to. But once she steps up to the plate, how she acts as your woman is what matters. And this is one of those fundamental things you have to keep in mind when you're talking about your own praxeology. Like, how are you approaching sex and relationships and plates and all of that stuff? It's, what do I want? And in this guy, he knew what he wanted. He said he knew what he wanted. Actually, I should correct that. He said he knew what he wanted. He wanted a conservative woman, barefoot and pregnant, whatever. And the girl walked in. He's like, oh, so I know what you like, and I'll act like this. I won't talk about my, daddy issues and all this stuff. And she just acts like she wants to act. Now, the beauty of this is, as a girl decides I'm falling for this guy, they tend to buy their own hype. So in reality, she starts to believe this stuff. It's not that she says here she's doing it to keep him happy. But arguably, in the same way that this guy has his narcissistic fantasy of his like conservative woman, white picket fence thing, she will have her own borderline personality, which is to fit the role of the men. It's like the women are water and men are the container. It's another Archwinger post. But because there's that initial desire there, she's invested and she desires him, and their goals are aligned. They're not on the same team, but their goals are aligned. And this is how a good example of how you get those macro level adversarial sexual strategies. She's basically lying to him. He's building a fantasy for her and wants to coerce her into it. Very adversarial. But then when you get them together, she's happy. She comes in. He likes all the stuff about her. He's happy. She's acting right. And then he kind of realizes like, oh, so I truly don't care if she's barefoot and pregnant and just staying at home taking care of the kids. This girl can go do, what was she, a doctor? Something like that. Anyways, whatever, doctor. It's like, oh, I can still get that great type of woman that I'm looking for with a job. And he's like, oh, okay then. If I'm getting what I want, why do I care about this? And this is how that and this is like as close as you're ever going to get to negotiating desire. Because it's not the desire. It's where you just refine what it is you want out of life. And this is where I argue you can't have solid boundaries without a woman in your life. Because they're never tested. It's in what chapter is it? It's in one of my chapters on Praxeology Volume 1 frame. I wish I could remember exactly, but there's like 64 separate sections. It's somewhere in the middle, though, where I talk about the oak. And the idea there is that they had oak trees that were built in biodomes. And they found without like wind and rain and pushing them, that trees grew higher, taller, and faster, but they had no structural stability to them. So it turns out you need that constant buffeting of nature against these trees for them to build a more costly type of, I don't, not cartilage. I can't remember what the stuff's called in trees. It was a scientific name. Anyways, they have the fibers that are there to make it strong and the fibers that are there to make it big. Without the thing, you don't need it strong. So same as with women. You can say, and this is why you see so much Dunning-Kruger amongst single guys. Like, no offense to the White Claw Power Hour, but totally nice. No, it's just some blogger.